Hey there, this is Ben and John from Cinema Gulp, and today our quick shot review is on The Purge election year.
We played a lot of Purge games this evening. We have just one more. It's called Mommy's Choice. Which one of you will survive this year's Purge?
The soul of our country is at stake. The Purge targets the poor and the innocent.
The senator's going to win, and she's going to make real changes, too.
It is a night that is defining our country.
It's time to do something about that, Senator.
The Purge has to come to an end.
You take a lot of risks, Senator.
I have to. I was the only one in my family to survive. What made you apply for this position?
I almost did something on Purge night some years back. I want this night gone.
I want men in all these rooms. We got eyes and ears on everything.
All right, let's begin.
Election year marks the third film in the franchise. As the films move forward, so does the mythology of the sadistic day. In this third entry, we're introduced to the political and religious beliefs involved behind this holiday. Where the first film was a straightforward home invasion thriller set to the backdrop of the Purge, the second expanded more on the day itself, giving a small revenge storyline thrown in the mix. Here, the franchise changes the focus to the people behind the creation of the Purge and the politics behind it all. Returning from the second film is Frank Grillo as Leo Barnes, now a Secret Service agent assigned to protect the one senator running for president who wants to finally put an end to the Purge. Though these films aren't necessarily meant to be big picture thinking types of films, this one in particular sets up a story and characters surrounding certain undertones that feel more like propaganda in areas and centers on real world issues. So John, what did you think about The Purge election year?
I did not really enjoy this movie. It was bland and boring in my opinion. I've not been a huge fan of any of the Purge movies. I thought the first one worked the best when it was kind of a micro-budget, small horror movie, home invasion style horror movie. That worked better than the action movie genre that it seems to be going with in the last two films. But in this third film, it just comes across as we've already seen. I think the second film covered a lot of the territory, the political landscape, and why the Purge exists and who's really behind it and how they benefit from it. This one expands on that a bit, but not in any way that I found to be original or interesting. It was actually almost to be expected. Sure, we kind of already knew who was really behind this and what the motivations were. So I just felt like from a story point, it didn't really go in a direction that seemed that interesting for the Purge series. I think that the Purge as a series or as an idea, it's an interesting, frightening idea, and they've never really executed it that well in any of these films. So I just found it to be a bland kind of film, very forgettable, filled with a cast of characters who are also bland and uninteresting. Really just no exciting moments in the film. It's a small film that there's never really any moments where I was actually on the edge of my seat or invested in any of these characters surviving these moments, but they really never got that exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you that it definitely doesn't have any standout intense moments that really make you kind of nervous for the people involved, and that's what you should get from a premise like this. I've always felt that the idea and concept of the Purge series was much more interesting than anything they've given us on screen. The same can definitely be said for this one. It's still interesting, but not really for entertainment value. You're right, it has cookie cutter characters with not a lot of dialogue and not a lot of motivations. And the stakes feel lesser in this one for some reason, where it's supposed to be building towards, oh my god, these are the people that kind of came up with the Purge. It clearly has, undertones of religious beliefs and a lot of underground backdoor politics types of things, filled with awful people that believe really horrible things. So it has that kind of fear through those ideas.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged.
I purged because staying in is un-American.
Don't let your freedoms get taken away.
I purged because it's my civic duty.
But what the action that you're seeing on screen and the people that you're following, it's so lackluster. It just didn't have any real like energy behind it. I think his name is James DeMonico, the director of the movie. He's written and directed all 3 of these. But for some reason, they all kind of just keep missing the mark for me.
Well, yeah, I thought it was filled with terrible acting. I thought that the lead, whatever her name is, was not very good. She just reminded me of a used-up porn star, in my opinion. Frank Grillo was not the badass that he was in the last film. If at least he had come with that same character where he was kicking some ass, maybe there would have been some cool action scenes or some excitement. But he was understated in this film and really just seems like a different character a little bit than he was from the last film.
He did.
Maybe the most fun and interesting character is the Bubba Gump character, but even he's just a generic, shop owner, living the American dream, looking out for his property. There's nothing original about him. It's just we like that actor. He's entertaining to see on screen, but doesn't bring anything new to his performance.
You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. There's shrimp kebabs, shrimp Creole.
And then all the other side characters are completely forgettable and just forced in for certain moments of tension or excitement or side characters that we need little subplots just to fill time in the movie, but none of them are interesting or somebody who we'd like to see continue in this series. No. Even Frank Grillo's character and the senator, I don't know that I would give a shit to see them continue in another film.
Frank Grillo's character to me feels completely wrapped up with arc. His arc is done. There's literally nothing left for him to do.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, his arc was wrapped up at the end of the second one. But he came into this one as, like you said, almost a completely different character. I'd say this film is passable, but that's the biggest problem with this series in general, is they're all just okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Passable is the way to describe it.
Yeah, they've still never made a slam dunk Purge movie for me. I'm not sure if they will.
My favorite thing in these films is the masks. They still have come up with some really creepy masks in this one. There's definitely some arresting visuals in this film of beautiful brutality that's on display. But that's not the movie. That's just like some imagery that we've seen for a third time now. It's really not an interesting film in any way. And I think the rest, like when you don't have some of those moments that are creepy visuals, the rest of the film was kind of a bad video look, in my opinion. It was not shot very well. None of the action is compelling. It's close quarters and shaky cam at times. You don't really see what's going on in some of the action scenes. I think you mentioned there's a kind of final face-off between two characters that was choreographed poorly.
Which had no lead up to. These two characters are somehow arch nemesis by the end of it, but they've never come into contact, and they don't know each other, and there's literally no reason for them to fight. But they had to have a fight scene, I guess.
Exactly. So. Yep.
With the political and religious tones clearly underlining the entire film, it does, however, feel genuine, even when drawing parallels to today's politics and problems. But for me, that's a different discussion to have.
Yeah, it certainly seems like the reason that this one is election year and focused on this senator who's trying to stop it is to play on the political themes of what's going on in our country this year, with it being a true election year and who we have running for office this year. It does seem like they're playing that up a little bit. And I think we both would rather see this series go in a different direction than it has. And I feel like they came up with this idea because of its timely matter, because it is the election year. And they certainly could have done something different if they weren't just trying to feed off of this moment in time.
These ones all have good ideas, they just fail in execution. Or they or not fail, but they just don't pack a punch. Okay, John, so for me, for its sheer entertainment value based on what I think audiences think, and that is our chug meter, I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie 5 chugs. Because I didn't see a lot of positive reaction on opening night when I saw it. And as far as what I think it is as a film, I'm going to give it 5 gulps based on how I thought it was made, because I did think they utilized a $10 million budget fairly well. John?
So for the chug meter, if I was to rate this for what the audience is going to think of it, I think general audiences are pretty forgiving on bad filmmaking. So I think the general audience may lap this up and be ready for a 4th film. I'm going to give this a 7 for the chug meter because I think people will flock to this to some degree. But I don't know that it's going to be that memorable for them. I think people will still be there for this series. I don't think this is like a misstep that's going to have people jumping ship. But on the Gulp meter, my personal taste on this, I think it's a piece of shit. I just think it's forgettable. It's not the worst thing I've seen by any means, but it's just a weak, boring effort in my opinion. And I'm losing interest in the Purge series, not that I was heavily invested. So I'm going to give this a 3.5 because I don't think it ranks that high or is that memorable.
Okay. Everyone, once again, as always, thanks for listening. We are now on Facebook and Twitter, so please seek us out on those for you Cinema Gulp fans.
And check out our feature we're running this month, which is favorite villains. All month long, we're going to be featuring cool villains from cinema.
Send us GIFs, send us JPEGs of some of those villains with captions, without captions. We're hoping to gather a bunch of information from you guys and who we find are some of the strongest and weakest villains and get a show up on it for you guys. So your participation is desired.
This is John for Cinema Gulp.
And this is Ben. Leave us a comment below or give us a like if you like this review. Thanks a lot, guys. We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!